You're listening to the Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Well, happy Wednesday evening, folks. Welcome to my show. This is Scotty Roberts. You're listening to the Intrepid radio program right here on the Odyssey Radio Network. That's ODYSY1.com. Come on over and see all the goodness that is Odyssey Radio. At the same time, come on over and, like I say every day and every single introduction, come on over and view the video simulcast over on my YouTube channel. And that's youtube.com/Mr. Scotty Roberts. And if you scroll down on my YouTube page, you're going to find an archive of all 200 plus episodes of this program that we've done since its inception with Odyssey Radio almost a year ago. And also, come on over and join the live chat room. That's where all the Intrepids gather to talk about this show while it's going on. As a matter of fact, they're over there right now, chatting up a storm. So come on over and join us. And if you don't like the chat, just come on over and do the video experience and watch the chat and see what it's all about. And by the way, when you listen to or watch the archives, you're not going to be able to participate in the chat room in the archived format as it's already frozen up. Or locked down, but you can read the chat room and you can make comments down in the comments section. So come on over and join us. And whatever way you are joining us tonight, thank you for being here. I think it's damn cool that you would spend your time to come on over and hang with me. Now, something I like to say, this show, my show, tends to get into areas that are very different than, say, what Rocky and I do on the Situation Room. When you have another co-host, you're able to play off of each other very well, and that lends itself very well for comedy. But when, let's say, I want to tell butthole and nipple jokes here on this show, it falls a little flat. And, I go, yeah, what about my butthole? And I pause, and it doesn't do much for you. When Rocky and I do that, we play off of each other. And not to say that all Rocky and I talk about are buttholes and nipples, but those are anatomically valid things to talk about. However, we have a lot of other substance on the show over there. But this show, I tend to try to get a little more serious, that's the point I'm making, than we do with the Situation Room. And being a lone host on this show, you're just hearing my voice. So I try to make it as interesting as possible for you and present interesting information. Maybe things we don't get in other areas and in other ways. And, there is no excuse nowadays for anybody to lack any information on just about any given topic. You know what? I talk historically about the Library of Alexandria and what a repository of amazing world knowledge that place must have been 2,000 years ago. But we have, in essence, with the internet, something greater than the Library of Alexandria ever was. The only problem with the internet, of course, is that you've got to weed through anything you want to look up and find out if it's valid information, if it's some weirdo whack job living in his mom's basement drinking 17 bottles of Mountain Dew every day to Led Zeppelin playing in the background. And by the way, he's 46 years old living in his mom's basement. And so those are things you got to look out for on the internet. But the internet, well, there's no reason, we have no excuse that we lack knowledge on anything. We are probably the most knowledge-driven, that's not the word I'm looking for, knowledge accessible culture that has ever existed, or society, or world that has ever existed in world history, because it's all there at our fingertips. Now, not everybody has this, of course. You can go to a third world country, and many people don't have the internet, which is maybe sometimes a good thing for where they are. They don't get, you don't find tribal cultures in the jungles or out in the Serengeti spending their days indoors looking at social media. They got other things to do, better things to do, like hunting lions and things like that. But all that to say is, we in a first world country have little excuse for not knowing things. It's like this morning. I woke up from a crazy dream last night. And it seems lately I'm not remembering a lot of my dreams, but sometimes I have these wild, off-the-wall, vivid dreams that I wake up and I go, what the hell was that about? And I start looking around. I start digging around for answers to that question. What was that about? And so you can take just about any topic, and today we're going to talk a little bit about dreams and what they are and why they do what they do as a result of my looking around trying to figure out what dreaming is all about and why we dream the things we dream. And so, and I'm talking about dreams, in our sleep. There's also different kinds of dreaming. Martin Luther King Jr., I have a dream. I have a vision. I have a goal. I have something I want to attain. How do those things transfer over into our subconsciouses? Or do sometimes our dreams dictate what we do when we wake up? I know I was daydreaming once, and I kind of woke up and I wrote down the whole first chapter of my book, The Rollicking Adventures of Tam O'Hare, because it came to me while I was daydreaming. I was in that uninterruptible stupor of the thick daydream that could have been sleep dreaming had just a couple more minutes passed. So I wanted to look at this topic tonight about dreaming. We all dream. It's something we all share. And if you say, I don't dream, well, you probably just don't remember your dreams, because there's a reason we dream, and there's something in the mechanics of the brain that causes us to dream, even if you think you don't dream. And so last night, let me tell you about this. I had a dream, and I still haven't found answers to this yet. So if there's anybody out there that wants to talk to me, Yeoman, if you're out there, love to get your insight. Michelle, Motherella, Sarah, I'd love to get your insights on this. But last night, and I had this dream, and of course I woke up out of it, and it was starkly in my mind. Now, I'm not remembering all the details, but it seemed in this dream that I was a prisoner in a World War II era Nazi concentration camp, a Jewish concentration camp. Now, being Jewish didn't come up in the dream, so I wasn't necessarily labeled a Jew, but I was in the same circumstances. And they were, but the setting was a little different. It was like I almost had the option, it seemed, to walk out of that. And maybe that's the lucid side, where my lucid mind was saying, you are just dreaming. And it was weird. We were on these concrete bleachers that had railings, and they had put us all in uniforms of certain kinds. They were poking fun at us, all the Nazi uniformed soldiers, the guards that were with us. Everything from the guards with the helmets to the Nazi uniformed, like the gray version of the military uniform, officers' uniforms. And so all of this was happening around me in my dream, and it was like a cast of thousands. And I recognized several people in my dream. And I was actually the one who was, I wasn't observing this. I was there. The actions were focused at me. Conversations were aimed at my eyes. And so I was there participating. And they were shaving our heads at one point, and I saw several of my friends in a line about 20 feet away, and they were all looking at me and complaining about getting their heads shaved. Nobody's talking about, hey, we might die here. But they were all talking about the mechanics of what was going on at the moment. I saw a few of my friends, I could name them, that were there in the dream. And there was hair all over the place, and they're all standing in the line getting their hairs shorn off. And that's about the point where I woke up. There was one point where I left my seat on the bleachers and I walked around to the side to go sit with somebody else. Now, I distinctly remember Rainey was there, but she wasn't really there. There was a brunette woman that I think represented Rainey that had no interaction with me, but I was trying to get my seat back next to her. I wanted to sit next to her while this process was going on. And so I remember those kinds of elements to the dream. And so I got up and I thought, what the hell was that dream about? Why am I dreaming about concentration camps? Perhaps it's because I just watched a series on television, Hunters, which dealt with Nazi war criminal hunters in the 1970s. Al Pacino was in it, and a couple of names that you'd recognize. And they kept doing flashbacks to concentration camps. Perhaps that freshly put images in my mind over the last couple of weeks that brought up the concentration camp imagery. I don't know. Perhaps it's stress-related. I don't always feel stressed. I have stressors. I have things on the outside. You know, you always worry about when you're a freelancer and you don't punch into a job, and maybe many of you during this whole pandemic thing who have lost work understand this feeling. Where's the next paycheck going to come from? How do we keep the lights on next month? Stuff like that. How do we pay the rent? How do we pay the mortgage? Things like that. Those are always constant stressors. Everybody's got those to a certain degree. Unless, you know, you're in a very good position and you feel very secure in that, you know where your paycheck's coming from. And so those stressors are always there. Stressors of life, of relationship, of parenting, of all of this kind of thing. And so that stuff is out there, and we all worry about those things. Sometimes it's deep down, sometimes it's just a passing thing that goes by us, and we're not all that worried, but it's there. And so I'm trying to think as I woke up this morning, still laying in bed, trying to figure out what was all that about, and I'm trying to piece it together. So I looked up a bunch of stuff on dreaming, and so I've got a bunch of things I want to talk about dreaming. Maybe none of this is super in-depth at the moment, maybe many of us know this, but I wanted to talk about why humans dream, and why that remains one of behavioral science's biggest unanswered questions about how the human mind works. Dreams have a purpose, but it might not be to send us messages about self-improvement or the future or anything like that, as many believe. Instead, many researchers now believe that dreaming mediates memory consolidation and mood regulation. It has nothing to do necessarily with looking at self-improvement and how to better ourselves and all of that. It has to do with just dealing with consolidating our moods and our memories. And it's a process a little like overnight therapy. It's not a benefit that all share equally. People who are sleep deprived, like me many times, I'm sleep deprived. I sleep at weird times during the day. I fall asleep. Sometimes I'll have lunch and I'll fall asleep for 2 hours. Sitting on the sofa. But then I go to bed at 11 o'clock at night and I wake up between 3 and 4 every day. And so this morning I forced myself to stay in bed after this dream. And I actually, after this dream, when I woke up, I said, last week I had a dream that I remembered, and I went back to bed because I wanted to know what more of it was about. And so the dream almost picked up. Last night's dream of this concentration camp thing, it didn't feel horrific, the dream. It had problems in it, obviously, and it was based on very horrific times in history. But I still didn't want to re-enter the dream. I didn't want to see where it went after that. And so I left it alone. And I did go back to sleep for a couple of hours. So people who are sleep deprived tend to be dream deprived. If you're lacking in sleep and you're sleep deprived, your brain doesn't process things well when you sleep, and so you don't dream that much. Spending less time dreaming, perhaps not remembering dreams as well. And so what do our dreams mean when we dream? This is the first question I really wanted to look at. And I've asked these questions before over the years, but it was a fresh last night. Why these weird-ass dreams? The dreams are the stories that our brain tells us during the REM, or the rapid eye movement period of our sleep. And people typically have multiple dreams every night that grow longer as the sleep draws to a close. And over a lifetime, a person can dream 5 or 6 full years. If you live an average lifespan, you'll spend 5 or 6 years of it dreaming. And how to best examine all that remains a source of debate. Are all dreams based on real life is one of the questions that's out there. And dreams typically involve elements from waking life, such as known people, familiar locations, familiar events, familiar historical events, but they also have a fantastical feel about them. And in dreams, people might live out scenarios that would never be possible in real life, although they aren't always positive. As I've mentioned before, when I was a bit younger, I had a series of recurring dreams. Not the same dream, but the same theme. I dreamt, over the course of a couple of years, several different scenarios where I was a soldier in battle. And I've had, like psychic mediums will tell me that's because you were a soldier in your past life. And, the jury's out on that because there's no way to really qualify that other than just say, okay, I'll accept that. That's something I'm exploring with Mother Ella a little bit. And if you've seen Michelle, Mother Ella Piper, on the Situation Room. And so I would look at my dreams, these recurring dreams, and wonder, why am I dreaming that? Why did I have 5, 6, 7, 8 dreams over the course of a year or so that all dealt with me being in the military in different eras of history? Was I as some might have suggested, a reincarnated soldier, and every lifetime I always fought as a soldier? And this lifetime, the one I'm in now, I didn't. I was in the military, but broke a bone in my back, as I told a story about that last week, and was medically discharged. And so I never was in battle or anything like that. And so if you adhere to the whole life and next life and next life and next life theory, I guess you would call it, of existence, reincarnation and things like that, then perhaps there were reasons I did that. But bringing it down into science and more practical, why do I have those dreams? And can we interpret our dreams? People have always tried to figure out the meaning of their dreams, but dream interpretation, as a field of psychological study, emerged in 1899 when Sigmund Freud published The Interpretation of Dreams, his book. Now, today, most experts disagree with Freud's conclusion. Floyd's on the mind lately, the last couple of weeks, of course. But when Freud's conclusions, and a lot of people disagree with that nowadays. A lot of experts disagree with that. And some don't believe that dreams signify anything at all. But people continue to mine them for clues to their inner lives, their creative insights, and even hints of the future. People have said to me, "You're a creative guy. I'll bet you have vivid dreams." And I'm like, no, sometimes I don't dream at all that I remember. That could be because I'm sleep deprived. So why do we have nightmares? Those horrific things. Who here likes having a nightmare? I don't. Now, last night's dream was weird, but it wasn't nightmarish. It didn't achieve that level by the time I woke up. I have a feeling if I had remained sleeping, something more would have happened. That's why when I fell back to sleep, I consciously said, I don't want to dream that dream. I don't want to see what the conclusion of that was. And so, why do we dream these things? Nightmares can create feelings of terror, anxiety, despair, and they lead to psychological distress or sleep problems like insomnia. Research has identified a range of causes for nightmares, including post-traumatic stress, PTSD, or PTS, anxiety, especially the presence of generalized anxiety disorders, disassociation, physiological changes that are happening in our lives, in our bodies. And our nightmares based on real-life experiences. Think of your last nightmare that you can remember and ask yourself, was it based on a real-life experience? Re-experiencing is a common symptom of post-traumatic stress. And it's a disorder, and it's known as flashbacks. You know, when I got out of the military, I didn't feel traumatized by the military. When I got out of the Marine Corps and I was sent home, I had dreams for the next several months, off and on, about boot camp, about dealing with officers, about attending officer training, about just that stuff in general, the Marine Corps in general. And but I didn't have a trauma out of that, so it wasn't reliving a traumatic experience. But I had some of the flashbacks, it seemed. And these involuntary recollections often manifest in the form of nightmares that can cause significant emotional distress, even when the dreams aren't exactly replays of the trauma or any trauma at all. They may have strong symbolic or indirect connection to the event. And so when you dream a nightmare, you're reliving something within that nightmare that is bringing up either past trauma or a past experience that was unpleasant, and your system, your brain, is working still for ways to work around it. And so do children have nightmares more than adults? I know my kids have nightmares every now and then. They come crying into the bedroom, crawl into bed with us. We all know that scenario, especially if you've had kids. Terrifying dreams that rouse people from sleep plague children more often than adults. And that doesn't mean because they've always gone through traumatic experience. I don't think my kids have been through any traumatic experience, but they still have nightmares. Nightmares can be especially vivid for young children because they may have a harder time separating fantasy from reality. I mean, my little 5-year-old daughter dreams of werewolves and things like that, but they watch that stuff, even in Disney kid shows. You know, my vampire babysitter next door, I think it's something like that, is the title of one of the shows they like to watch. Deals with vampires and werewolves and other monsters, set in a young, not preteen, a like tween age and up kind of setting. And but half of the grown-ups also have occasional nightmares, although fewer than 10% of adults report frequent or recurring episode. And there is a treatment for nightmares, and I'm not going to go into those right now. Are night terrors caused by nightmares is a question. We could look into some of those things, but I think that there's more information here. We'll get back to those after the break. I just noticed we're right up on the break. So, folks, you sit there, sit tight. We're going out for break. If you're listening on Odyssey Radio, you're going to hear some ads. If you are over on my YouTube channel, it's just music because two different formats, two different places that this is playing. So sit tight. Couple of minutes. We'll be right back. Hey gang, thanks for sitting on through the break. This is Scotty Roberts. You're back for part 2 of tonight's Intrepid radio program. You can hear the audio version over on Odyssey Radio and many of the outlets that they list there where you can pick up this show in its audio format, and that's at odysy1.com. Or you can come on over to my YouTube channel and you can watch the video simulcast of the show. And that's over at youtube.com/Mr. Scotty Roberts. And while you're there, join the chat room, or at least observe it. You can see what people are talking about, what all the other Intrepheads are talking about, or you can jump into the pool with both feet and state your opinions and get to meet some of the people over there. And I want to welcome several new people that have joined over on my YouTube channel. I hope you're taking advantage of the chat room and at least watching it. I think there's a lot of good information in there, as well as a lot of frivolous talk as well, which is okay. That's what we do. We're all friends over there. So we're talking about dreaming. I had a weird dream last night that prompted me to start looking up some things on dreaming. And not that I haven't been through this before and had discussions and looked and researched into dreaming before. I have sometimes people come to me and ask me to interpret dreams. Now, maybe I could do that with the tarot, but I don't interpret dreams from a psychic or a mediumship type of position. So I wanted to find out psychologically a little bit more about dreaming. And by the way, I think digging into the science of something, the psychology of something, is just as that's not the way I want to say that. It has to be. You can equally balance that with looking into the more spiritual side of things. What is the spiritual side? What is the subconscious side? What is the perhaps the psychic side of dreaming? So you can take those. They aren't mutually exclusive. I think you can take both of those and put them together. Say there's a scientific reason this is happening and maybe a spiritual reason this is happening. And spiritual I use not in the religious sense of the word, but in the non-scientific sense of the word. So there's we were looking at nightmares. It was the last thing we talked about before the break. And then there's lucid dreaming. During lucid dreaming, which most commonly occurs during the late stage REM sleep, that's when the dreamer, you, me, where we're aware that we're actually asleep and dreaming. But it's able to control events within your dreams. Now, I've never to a certain extent, because I've never really been a lucid dreamer that says, now, when I go into dreaming, I'm going to wake my conscious mind up while I'm dreaming, and I'll be able to control the dream. I wish I could do that. It'd be nice to go, okay, today I'm dreaming about this, and I'm going to do this, rather than let the events of the dream carry me. And so lucid dreaming and lucid dreamers report willingly that themselves to fly. They can say, I'm going to fly in this dream. They've reported this, that I wanted to fly, so I flew. There's flight. They act out sexual fantasies, which, we've all had those dreams. And yet there are times when the lucid dreaming, I wish I could lucid dream. There was that time, and I mentioned this a long time ago, I think. I had a dream where I came home from work. This is when I was a creative director, living back in Detroit for a couple of years. And I came home, and we had a townhome that was upstairs. And you entered on the ground floor, and then you're actually in the townhome, but there's a stairway that went up to the living room and a railing up there and stuff, and a long, tall stairway. And standing at the top of the steps was Demi Moore. Now, that dates it. This was back in 1991, 92, when I had this dream, because I was at that particular job, living at that particular place. And there's Demi Moore, who I had a screen crush on, and she's standing naked at the top of the stairway with her hands on either side of the wall or the railing. And she goes, "Hi, Scotty, welcome home." And I'm like, yeah. And then I woke up. If I'd been lucid dreaming, I'd have willed myself to stay asleep and start climbing the stairs. Find out what Demi wanted. So these are the things I'm talking about with lucid dreaming. You can will yourself to do certain things. Now, I've never been a lucid dreamer, but I've never really put it to the test either. And so there's communities, whole communities dedicated to learning how to lucid dream at will. Although evidence is that this is really workable and really possible remains kind of inconclusive. Though you'll meet, and I've known people who said I can lucid dream and I can create my dreams. So how do lucid dreams work? Research suggests that the brain undergoes a physiological change during lucid dreaming. In studies, MRI studies, the prefrontal cortex and the cortical network, including the frontal, the parietal, the temporal zones of the brain, have been shown to activate and light up when the brain begins lucid dreaming. And this appears related to the waking consciousness that characterizes lucidity. And can anyone have a lucid dream? Now, most people don't typically experience lucid dreaming, or they don't realize that they do. Like last night, I don't think I was lucid dreaming, but there was a point in the dream where it said, I don't really want to go on any further with this. Did I wake myself up? Is that lucid dreaming? And those who do tend to experience lucid dreaming in a limited way or without full agency, so to speak, is probably more common. But some experts and advocates of the potential benefits of lucid dreaming for boosting creativity and confidence, reducing stress, believe that most people can train themselves to experience lucid dreams. You can train yourself to do it. Now, how do you do that? Advocates of lucid dreaming, dream training, they suggest that you start with dedicated recording of one's dreams to gain a greater awareness of the conscious roles that may already be at play in common scenarios in your dreams. So you wake up, you record your dreams. I think it's kind of cool. I've talked about it before, but I've never actually done it. Get a little journal and put it by the bed with a pen or a pencil, whichever you like. And when you wake up from a weird dream or any dream that you remember, jot it down. I think this is the first step to lucid dreaming and taking control of your dreams. But sometimes it might be interesting for you 20 years down the road to look back at a dream journal and see all the things you dreamt about over the years. So another approach is waking up 2 hours earlier than normal, staying awake for a short time, and then going back to bed with the goal of increasing awareness of fresh, late-stage REM sleep dreams, and eventually you can direct them. So this is some of the stuff about dreaming, why we dream, what we dream, how we dream, the mechanics of dreaming, and there's 7 questions and answers about dreaming that I have up in front of me here that I think might be worth looking at. The first one is, why do we dream? We've kind of dealt with that one already. The why of dreaming is one of the great mysteries of being asleep. There's so many theories about why dreaming happens that some think that dreaming has no specific underlying purpose at all whatsoever, and that our dreams might be a byproduct of other things that are going on in the brain during sleep. But many researchers now studying sleep and dreams believe there's a primary purpose to our dreams. Some theories suggest that dreams are, and here's a few things. Number 1, a way to express or process memory and learning, moving memories from short-term to long-term storage, and giving the brain a clean slate before the next waking day. So it's a way we process the things that have happened to us during the day or in the very near past. And this is how the brain processes those things and puts them all away in a filing cabinet. And I think everything we've ever experienced, everything we've ever dreamed, every thought we've ever had, every peripheral action that we don't really participate in around us in our waking hours is all stored in this computer of our brain. So it's another way. It's a way to maintain emotional balance. It helps us work through difficult, complicated, unsettling thoughts and emotions and experiences. The brain's subconscious deals with the issues that we don't know how to deal with in our conscious state, and it helps process things. Number 3 is a different state of consciousness that unites past, present, and future to process information from the first two and prepare for the third. So the brain is giving us ways to process everything that's gone on in the past and the present, to process how to act or what our brain is supposed to learn from that for the future. Number 4 is a kind of dress rehearsal for the brain to prepare itself to face threats and dangers and challenges in the waking life. I think I've mentioned this before, but Rainey, when I first met her and we were first really together and hanging out, she would have wild dreams at night. She'd wake up kind of swinging, and I'm like, hey, ho, ho, hello. And she'd wake herself up at the same time, go, whoa. She goes, I was just dreaming that I was being attacked by zombies. Now, this is like 15 years ago. I was being attacked by zombies. And I was having to fight them all off, and all I had was a broomstick, and I'm swinging it at them. And she had more dreams like that. They were kind of crazy that way. And we didn't try to interpret them. We just thought they were very interesting. And so the brain sometimes tries to prepare itself for certain threats, dangers, or challenges in the waking life. So maybe it was, a stress-related dream, or I've got to put on the good fight. I've got to defend myself in a situation. So the brain responding to biochemical changes and electrical impulses that occur during sleep are sometimes the bland reason why we dream. So there may not be a single answer to why we dream, but our dreams might serve several purposes all at once. Several different things going on in the mind and the body and our experiences. So, what is a dream exactly, and why do we all dream? At its basic level, we know that a dream is a collection of images, impressions, events, and emotions that we experience during sleep. And sometimes dreams have real storylines with plots and characters that could be plucked from a movie screen. Other times, dreams are more impressionistic. They're filled with emotions and visual imagery. And sometimes there's not a story in them at all. We just see something and we experience the emotion of that. So maybe, that's experiencing something. Might not be a narrative like a story. It just might be an event, a thing that we're witnessing, an imagery. And I've had a lot of dreams like that. Other of them are epic. We have epic conflicts and epic battles and ongoing storylines. They might get a little weirder as they progress and take weird left turns or right turns, and you have weird places you end up, but it's all the same story. So typically a person is going to spend 2 hours or more a night dreaming and experiencing somewhere between 3 to 6 dreams over the course of a night's rest. And most dreams appear at least to last from about 5 to 20 minutes. Those 20-minute dreams, those are the epic dreams. Then I have some dreams that you go, I must have been only dreaming about 10 seconds. That's those imagery dreams. And so I've heard a lot of people say, I don't dream. They cast it out, I don't dream. Now, you might not remember your dreams, but that doesn't mean you're not having them. Dreaming is a universal human experience. It's the way we are put together. It's the physiology of the brain. It's how our brain copes with life. And so it doesn't mean you're not having dreams if you don't remember them. Dreaming is a universal human experience. And the truth is, the vast majority of dreams that we experience will, for most of us, never even be remembered. They're memory dreams of dreams that usually fade very quickly after we awaken. Have you noticed that? Even when you have a vivid dream, you go, whoa, I can't wait to tell somebody about this a little later when everybody's awake and I can call my buddy or I'm at the office. And then you get there and you're like, let's see, I had this dream. It was weird. It had a truck in it. I remember that part, and you can't remember the details anymore. That's why it might be good to have a little tape recorder or a little dream journal. It might be interesting to do your own personal study on your dreams and where your mind takes you in your subconscious when you're sleeping. So the ability to recall dreams varies greatly from one individual to another, and some people regularly remember their dreams while others only have hazy recollections or themes or subjects or no recollection at all. Me, I'm a storyteller. I see things, well, obviously I see things visually, but I interpret things visually. When I dream and when I remember those dreams, I remember all the visual little details. I can't explain to you exactly how they all interact and why I'm seeing what I'm seeing, like last night's dream. Why were we all on bleachers? Like, think of just bleachers in a gymnasium, but they were concrete, and there were only like 5 or 6 steps. And there had railings around them. I remember those details. I remember the color of the railing, the gray of the concrete. I remember the clothes we were wearing, the uniforms in detail that I saw. And so maybe because I have a creative mind, do I embellish while I'm awake? By assumption, because my brain kind of knows what that stuff's all about. Oh yeah, well, you saw a Nazi uniform, so it had these details, the little ribbon here, and the this and the that, and the kind of style of cover he was wearing. And so my brain fills in the gaps in my conscious life, or am I actually remembering those? I don't know. So the point being, we all visually remember our dreams in different ways. And there's a number of possible explanations for this. Studies suggest that dream recall might be linked to patterns of activity in the brain, and that's a big duh for me. Everything involves that we experience in life depends on the patterns of activity in our brain. Our ability to recall our dreams might be influenced by interpersonal attachment styles, the way we tend to form bonds with other people in our lives. I had a bunch of friends in my weird Nazi concentration camp dream last night. Lots of recognizable faces, people I could name right now. So sometimes the way we dream forms the bonds with other people in our lives, or they're formed from the bonds we have with other people. Changing hormone levels throughout the night might also have a role in our ability to recall our dreams. During REM sleep, a time of active dreaming, levels of the hormone cortisol are high and may interfere with communication between areas of the brain that are involved in memory consolidation. And so our most active dreaming occurs during REM sleep, so adults spend roughly 25% of their sleep time in REM sleep, with longer periods of REM sleep occurring later in the night and in the early morning. Like right now, I'm talking right now, I can go to sleep right now if I wanted to, because I don't sleep well at night. So REM sleep is one part of the norm, and that's why, by the way, people who are insomniacs generally don't remember a lot of their dreams, because they never fall into that deep sleep. So REM sleep is one part of the normal sleep cycle. In addition to REM sleep, sleep cycles contain 3 other stages. Dreaming can occur in every stage of sleep. Dreams during REM sleep appear to be more visually vivid and bizarre and narratively driven than dreams during other sleep stages. There was, and I've mentioned this, I had a dream once when I was working out of state a year and a half ago. And I dreamt that my entire family, Rainey and all the kids, were killed in a fireball car accident. And that there I was there, and I had to identify the bodies. And I woke up terribly shaken and weeping. And I had to call Rainey at 2 a.m. to assure myself that she was there and she and the kids were alive. And she laughed a little bit at me. She goes, and she just told me, "You talk to me as long. I'm here. I love you. We're all okay. You talk and you keep me on the phone as long as you need me." And it took me a good half an hour on the phone to come down from that. Now, when I think back on it, I don't remember being fully asleep. I remember that it was almost a deep daydream. Not that I daydream about my family dying in a fireball, but I didn't feel that I was in that deep REM sleep. I was in light sleep. And as a matter of fact, I think it occurred while I was out on the deck, and I was leaning on the railing like this, and I felt like I could fall asleep and go to bed. So I either fell asleep standing up and had that dream, or it was a very deep, deep daydream, if you will, in that stupor state of sleep. And so I've dreamt out of those. Have you ever woken up and you've not been able to move or speak after a dream? And this scary sleep phenomena is indirectly related to dreaming. During REM sleep, the body goes into a state of temporary paralysis. Did you know that? When we're doing our REM sleep, we're in temporary paralysis. Maybe you can notice there's times I wake up in the middle of the night and I look over at Rainey, who's sound asleep, and she's like laying there like that, and she is not moving a muscle. I can touch her arm. She doesn't move a muscle. Now, I could shake her and she'd wake up, but there's that dream temporary paralysis. It's a condition known as REM atonia, and this appears to be the body's way of protecting itself during dreaming. When Rainey is woken up swinging because she's trying to kill zombies, she's obviously already coming out of REM sleep. But could you imagine if your body moved while you were having deep REM sleep dreaming? You could really injure yourself. So this is the body's way of protecting itself. Rematonia, 2 words, REM, R-E-M, rapid eye movement, atonia, keeps us from acting out physically in response to dreams. Think of some of the scary or exciting shitty dreams that you've experienced. Maybe you've been flying over a mountain range. Hey, I'm flying. My arms are spread out wide, or they're out in front of me like Superman with one knee bent. Imagine if you could respond physically to those dreams experiences, being chased by an attacker of some sort. What if your body could physically respond to those dreams? You might fly yourself right out of bed and onto the floor. Maybe that happens sometimes. That's why we find ourselves hitting the floor real hard in the night. Now, I haven't fallen out of the bed in years. I had a dream once, and I think I related this in comic format, talking to Rocky on his show once, but I had a time once where we had a bunch of chihuahuas. The 2 that we had bred, not planned, and we had a bunch of puppies. So we had like 7 dogs in the house for several weeks. And they were shitting and peeing all over the place. And trying to keep them sequestered in one area where there wasn't carpet was tough. And I had a dream where I have them all on leashes, and I'm walking them out to a tree in the yard, and I'm talking to the dogs, and I'm chiding them, saying, "We don't poop and piss in the house. I'm going to show you what you're supposed to do." And I walk them all up to the tree, and I unzip, and I start peeing on the tree. "Now, this is how you do it," I tell the dogs. And I actually wake up, and I'm peeing. It's flying all around, like a fire hose. And I'm like, oh, crap. You sit up, and you got to strip the bed down. Now, I don't pee the bed. But in that particular occasion in my dream, my physical REM atonia hadn't taken over. I wasn't paralyzed. And thank goodness it woke me up before too much damage was done. And so it's possible to awaken and still be in a deep state of sleep or paralysis. And this can be a really frightening experience for some people, particularly the first time it happens. When you wake in sleep paralysis, it's a sign that your body may not be making smooth transitions between the stages of sleep. This can be the result of stress, sleep deprivation, other sleep disorders, including narcolepsy. And narcolepsy, that it's where, you can fall asleep on a moment's notice without notice, as well as the side effect of medications or overconsumption of drugs or alcohol. Now, I had a beer last night. Our neighbors stopped by, and last night at about 10 o'clock at night. It was right after this show ended. And I get a text from my neighbor saying, "Come outside, you guys." And we came out, and they're walking across the street over to our patio. We sat out and we had a beer and talked for about an hour. Did I have too much beer last night? I don't know. I only had one. But those are some of the things that can affect our sleep disorders. Sometimes when I drink, by the way, I sleep more like a baby than at any other time. So I just don't drink that much anymore. I don't have opportunity. I got kids at home. All of that stuff. So there's all different kinds of dreaming. There's different ways. We got to end this for tonight. But tomorrow I want to come back and talk about the weird or the spooky or the woo side of dreaming. That whole side of dreaming that has to do with the spiritual element to our dreams. And what do they mean? Are they indicators of past lives? Are they indicators of something else that's on a much deeper spiritual level? So tomorrow night, we're going to explore this a little more. So 23 hours, folks. We're taking a 23-hour break, and we'll be right back. Sit tight. Sweet dreams.